Hey team, Mark Zeese here, Bible Land Explorer. I trust all is well with you in the place where you are. The place where I am is Trier. So as we think about the amphitheater and the Apostle Paul, it might be worth asking the question, did Paul ever end up in an amphitheater? And I think the answer is probably no, probably not. But he uses amphitheater language from time to time in order to communicate with his audience, who would have been very familiar with this kind of setting. Three passages come to mind. The first of these is found in Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4. And in his first letter to the Corinthians, he's defending apostolic ministry, his own ministry. And he does this with a bit of rancor. He says this, quote, "It seems to me that God has put us apostles on display at the end of the procession like those condemned to die in the arena." And that phrase, "in the arena," is not actually in the original text. Like those who are appointed to death, those who are condemned. We're parading on in. We have been made a spectacle, a theatron. We've been put on display for the entire universe. And so Paul uses a couple of words there that suggest amphitheater, that the condemned to die in the parade and the spectacle there. A second passage which jumps to mind as I think about the amphitheater is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 16 through 18. And again, in this context, Paul is defending his ministry. He's defending those who attacked him. And he says that God has proved to be sufficient in these confrontations, that he has rescued me from the lion's mouth. And one might think, well, lions, did he end up in the amphitheater and he got rescued somehow? I don't think so. We have to remember that Paul was a Roman citizen. He would not be condemned to die in an amphitheater. He would be beheaded, which is a fitting way for a citizen to go. But the condemned who were not citizens would be executed here. And so I don't think that he's referring to a literal lion, but rather to those enemies who have confronted him, and he's faced them down. He's faced down the lions. God has closed the mouth of the lions, referring, I think, to an Old Testament passage in Daniel. A third passage that comes to mind here as we think about Paul and the amphitheater is 1 Corinthians chapter 15. This might be the best argument for an amphitheater, but even then I don't think it works all the way through. In this context, he talks about fighting the wild beasts in Ephesus. And one could imagine a wild beast fight, in a place like this, but I don't think so. Not in the case of the Apostle Paul. It's another one of these allusions to Paul's detractors, to Paul's enemies. He took them on, and his battle was with words, not with tooth and nail. So he had to fight the beasts in Ephesus as part of what God had called him to do. So, there you have it. Paul and the amphitheater, a couple of passages there. There may be others that I'm not thinking of at this precise moment in time as I'm sitting on the hillside here, but these come to mind. You take care.